Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the series premiere of Beyond. So I went into the show knowing a little bit of what the premise of it was, but I was actually quite surprised. I mean, a lot about anything. Like for instance, how he ended up in a coma in the first place. That was kind of interesting. Basically being chased away by his best friend's brother, who's basically like, oh, me and my friends, we were going to kill you. I mean, granted, Holden did smash him across the head with his bike helmet, but I mean, he was kind of beating up on his brother a little bit. I mean, you could argue that was just kind of a brotherly thing, but still, that was kind of douchey on his part. And like, who chases a teenager down on a bike? Is like, do you have nothing better to do with your life? We did see him after like the 12-year skip, and it was kind of interesting to see that he didn't really have any much to do in the episode. It was just like Holden happened to go to church with his mom and his brother, and just happens to see him there. And his brother made a comment like, "Yeah, you should know him. That's Kevin's brother, the psycho that put you in a coma." So I mean, that was the only interaction we really had with him in the episode. But I can only assume, like, I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but it makes me wonder where that's going to play out, because I'm sure probably the entire time he's gotten nothing but flack. Everyone blamed him for Holden's coma, and I'm sure it makes you wonder, like, how much does he know? I mean, because Kevin's neck deep in all this, for I guess mainly because Kevin is his best friend, and maybe back then while he was in a coma, they figured he had the potential, and like it. Because we never really found out exactly at what point in Kevin's life did they get to them. Was it in more recent time? Has it been the entire time that Holden's been in the coma? It's really hard to say, but it's like he's neck deep into this, because it was even to the point his phone was ringing. His wife is like, "Oh, what's up?" He's like, "No, just leave me alone. I'm on the phone right now." And he was answering. So it's like, "Hey," he was like reluctant to answer it. So there's so many questions on that part too, but I'm wondering, like, does Jeff have any part to do with that too? And that whole situation itself is really sad, because it's like Holden's like, I woke up, all I wanted was my life back. Just want to be with my friends, be with my best friend, with my family. And it's like, I'm sorry me waking up ruined your life, because it's like I'm sure they threatened him. He almost caught a bullet in the head because of Holden. I mean, after, getting the crap beat out of him. I don't know why in my head, because it's the new form, like freeform. I was gonna say new form, but since it was like ABC Family, for some reason, like my head, it's like I wasn't expecting to see blood at all, and it's like that was kind of a brutal beat up, and like he's got blood in their mouths and everything, getting smacked around like that. I don't know why that just didn't click in my head that you would see something like that on. I don't know. Because I think it was a situation where I was kind of walking into it thinking like, oh man, obviously his best friend's going to be by his side throughout this whole situation. It's like, obviously it's going to be one of those shows where because at first I was thinking, oh, it's going to be one of those situations where he keeps his secret from his best friend, but then his best friend helps him out and, is by his side throughout the whole situation. But it turns out the reverse on both sides. It's like, oh, his friend knew, or didn't really know, but, was ordered to kind of like keep an eye on him to see if he had any powers. But now it's also seeing like his best friend's not even there for him when the time comes. I mean, it's understandable in the circumstances, but it's just like, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see whether he actually helps out Holden or not, or whether he just kind of keeps his distance. We get a little bit of a picture of a little bit peek into the whole circumstances. It seems, well, for one, when it comes to Holden's powers, what he can really do, it's hard to say exactly what his powers actually are and what he's fully capable of. We see that basically when him and Kevin were being threatened, like he summoned up his powers, and it basically sent out a shockwave that sent those two guys, well, all three guys, the one that had a gun against Kevin, as well as the other two that were near Holden, kind of sent them flying. And when Holden goes back to there later, he stands on his brother's vehicle and looks down and sees that basically the cement has been cracked, and at the center of it, was where he was the previous night. So then there was the fact is that basically in his dreams he ended up melting the faces off his these toys in his room. He set fire to that MRI room. Started messing with the electricity, because computers and stuff started flickering along with the lights. Same thing at the party, ended up kind of catching the house on fire. So it's like we don't really know it. And I almost completely forgot, literally made the car explode. So it's like we still don't even have a clear picture of what it is. Like, it's one of those situations where it's like it's like, oh, it's cool. Like I need to understand how it works so you can really fully comprehend what he's capable of. Like, what is it, like a psychic thing? Is it like just a does he have the power to kind of heat up the space around him? That's what I'm kind of wondering. Is it something like that? Like maybe you build up enough heat, he can shoot it off like a shockwave or what? I mean, obviously it's connected to fire, because the fact is that he's setting everything on fire like that. So I don't know. Maybe you'll never actually get a good explanation of it. I mean, and like I said, it's not like you necessarily need one, but it's just like I said, it really helps you understand. Like, if you understand how his powers work, you can kind of fully understand. Even if it's in a made up setting, you can still rationalize what it is that he could possibly do in the future. Because even Willa herself said it, like, this is just like the beginning steps to it. Because we also find out that, because I went into it, once again, like I knew a little bit of premise, so I knew he wasn't, like, his body was in a coma, but his mind was somewhere else. Like, Willa talks about the fact is that he lived a completely different life. That while he was in that coma, his mind was off somewhere living a life, and she was there with him. She's like, I watched you grow up and everything. As well as the old man he keeps seeing in his head, popping up all over the place. His name's Arthur, which, by the conversation Willa had with that lady, she was like, oh yeah, I learned how to speak Polish from my grandfather. So it's like, okay, so Arthur is her grandfather, which it seems like he's in a similar situation as Holden, because he's kind of in a coma, but he talks to her through, like, he's able to, I guess, using his powers, send her text messages to her phone. So I can assume, like, basically whatever world or reality they were in when they were in a coma, whatever their mind was, it seems like maybe Arthur's trapped there, and somehow Holden was able to bring himself back. But then it's like, I mean, because the fact is, Willa and him are there. Willa has all of her memories, but Holden doesn't. So maybe something happened in that 12 years. The reason why maybe it was a situation, I mean, go throw out some guesses that maybe, like, his training and stuff was done, but the fact of the matter is something came up, and, like, him and Willa were like, okay, we're going to meet back here on Earth, back here in the real world. I mean, back in this world. But the moment he came back, his memory was gone, or something else happened. What it seems like basically is there are two opposing sides. There's a side Willa and Arthur are on, as well as, well, because during the breaks they kind of, the creator as well as the cast the creator kind of referred to him as Yellow Jacket. So we're just going to call him that for now. It seems like Yellow Jacket and a guy he works for named Mr. Frost are essentially, it's some kind of organization that wants Holden. They're basically saying that they didn't want Yellow Jacket to handle things the way he did, because the point was for Holden to be on their side. They need him for whatever it is that Frost is planning to do. But at the same time, it seems like Willa and Arthur want him as well. So it's going to be a situation of, like, I'm sure it's going to be one of those situations where it's like you have Willa telling him one thing, but you have Frost kind of trying to pique his interest, being like, no, you should join my side, because I'm doing this for what I'm doing is for the greater good. But you have Will and them be like, no, he's a bad guy, like, he's not a good person, don't join his side. Something really quickly that kind of popped in my head, just kind of, that romance angle of things. Because, obviously there's going to be a show with that kind of romantic angle to it. The way Willa talks about it is, obviously, it's kind of like alludes to the fact is that there was something between her and Holden. Holden never really asked too much. I mean, granted, by the end of the episode, we see that he is going to get more information about, like, what it is exactly she was talking about. But it does beg the question, like, was there something there? And because to me, I thought it was going to turn into, like, I was like, because especially what happened at the party, which that whole, what's it called, Round the World, where they were literally passing, like, the weed down from person to person. It's like, is that a thing? I didn't know that was a thing. It's like, wow, I don't know. I feel like I'm decently enough in that age range to have known something like that. Maybe that's always been a thing and I've just never known. I don't know. That was kind of interesting to me. I was like, is that what kids do these days? But nevertheless, there was that whole situation with the girl he met and everything, and I was like, huh. So the moment he met her and they started making out and everything, I was like, all right, she's going to be like, it's going to turn into a love triangle situation, right? Where she kind of likes Holden and Holden kind of likes her, but then there's going to be the whole Willa situation. I was like, it's going to turn into that, isn't it? But then it's kind of like, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure him freaking out a little bit and then, like, going to the bathroom and everything is kind of like the whole house fire thing was probably a big damper on that. But I'm just curious to see where that, like, will that turn into that, or is that just kind of like oh, that's their type of thing? It's not really going to be brought up again. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Especially because the fact is, because I'm sure a big part of it is going to be Holden trying to hold on to a regular life because that's what he wants. But I mean, being what he is and being chased by the people who are chasing after him, it seems it won't be the case. We also got a little bit of a different side to see Yellow Jacket, because we do see that he does have a regular family. He has a little girl and a wife. His wife obviously doesn't know what he does. I mean, nobody does. I mean, he comes home, puts on his ring, puts his gun in the safe. So I guess it's one of those situations that kind of humanize him a little bit. I mean, granted, like, we don't know 100%. I mean, like, we're just getting introduced to him, so we don't even know what he's done. The fact is he has a gun and everything makes you think, he's kind of a hired gun type of situation, kind of like a hitman or assassin, whichever one you want to use. So he's definitely the dirty work type of guy. You call in to do jobs that not a lot of people be willing to take. So, and what's his connection to this whole organization? And what's that got to do with the whole, like, because there was that place Holden was in when he was passed out in the bathroom of that party. It was like a long hallway and there was a door and something was beating on it. And it's like, okay, so is that connected to that Frost person or is that something else entirely? Because he also had that dream that basically, essentially Willa had given him this compass and there was like an approaching storm and she was like, they're coming. Like, they want to try and stop you from doing, they know what you're trying to do and they're going to try and stop you. So, because at first I saw that, I was like, oh, so is this like a flash forward and then flash back? Like, we see maybe like at like a future point in the season or maybe at the end of the season and that we're going flashback to show you how we got there. It seemed like that. It seemed like it was purely a dream. Not unless that was him remembering. I feel like it wouldn't be him remembering something from the other world because it's like we've seen what it looks like. It's very blurry, but we've kind of seen what the other world looked like. It doesn't really look like this world. Makes you wonder will we actually visit that world or not, or will we only get to see the glimpses from Holden's memory. But the fact of the matter is, the fact is that during it, he ended up melting her face a little bit. I mean, mainly it was kind of reflecting the fact as of what was happening while he was dreaming. But I'm sure it's also supposed to represent the fact that, he can't control his powers. I mean, hence the whole house fire thing. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the whole situation with his family. The fact of the matter is that they are, I mean, it seems like obviously his family's going to play a part in this just because obviously adding in the drama aspect of it, because it seems, because even Holden himself had to ask his dad, he's like, are you and mom okay? And he's like, yeah, we've kind of gotten past the worst of it, because it's like, for one, they have two different ways of work, like, doing things. Like for Holden's mom, it seems like she got very religious after he went in his coma, just, because some place to get answers where there are no answers, essentially. His brother Luke kind of just goes along because it's kind of like, it makes her feel better, but the dad doesn't, because it's like, Luke kind of jokingly says it's like, oh yeah, dad likes to sleep on his weekends and he doesn't want anything kind of interrupting that. But it's because for him, he even talks to Holden when they end up fixing his bike together. They're just kind of like, he's like, you and me, we're kind of fixers. If there's a problem, we kind of fix it, trying to pray it away, like, pray to fix something, that's just crazy. So just kind of their differences on how they handle the whole situation. So I'm sure like for him, it was just always just kind of like a leave it in the doctor's hands to, help our son, whereas, his mom probably was like, yeah, let the doctors handle it, but also like, pray on it as well. So it's just kind of that different, beliefs and way of handling a stressful situation. So, and about that other world, like I'm wondering, kind of in my head, I'm thinking, I was sitting here thinking about, I'm wondering, is it going to be a situation where it's kind of like a parallel world, where it's kind of like, it's this like very thin existence, like kind of like a world where like, people can cross over between, like, because we see it like when Holden was in a church, like he was in the church, but it was empty. And then he just happened to see the only other person there is Arthur. And there was even a point where like he was at the party, Arthur was kind of reaching through the mirror. So it's like, I'm thinking there's like it's kind of maybe like a reflection of the world that they live in, but like very few people can cross over to that. Because with this whole situation, because it also begs the question, because it seems like Arthur and as well as Willa, I mean, she hasn't shown it yet, but you can assume the fact is that she has this, they have similar abilities. And maybe the same thing can be said about, Frost. I get the feeling that maybe he has the same things too. Because it kind of referenced the fact is that, like, because the whole point of testing his ability was to put the gun to Kevin's head and pull the trigger that way. It's like the force Holden to stop it. So that's kind of another thing of just being like, it really seems like, his powers are almost like psychically connected. So, I mean, but I don't really know if that's the case or not. Because the fact is that, because the whole thing about Holden's character is the fact is it's kind of is brought up at the beginning and he kind of brings it up at the party. It's like, he's very into science. So it's like, could this be, where's the line? Is this just like a supernatural ability? Is this connected to aliens or what? Because the first time we see it is when he ends up in that forest, like after running from Jeff, and all that stuff starts lifting up behind him. The lights kind of turn on, flicker on and off like that. So it does seem like it might be some kind of telekinetic ability, kind of similar to maybe like a more recent example, I guess, would be 11 from the show Stranger Things, kind of something similar to that degree, or I don't know. Makes you wonder, is it something that he was always born with, or was this a power that was kind of gifted upon him? Like I said, like if we were to kind of possibly go the alien route, could it be something that they gave to him, or is it just something he was naturally born with? I'll also kind of note, since I'm like literally almost skipping over, I will say that I appreciate the fact is when it was like every time he kind of used his powers, it turned into slow-mo. You can never go wrong with slow-mo. I will always appreciate slow-mo in TV shows. So I don't know, I don't know which way to take it as that's what it looks like when he's using his powers, or is it, well, I mean, it doesn't seem like that's the case. I mean, obviously it just seems like that was obviously for dramatic effect, especially it looks really cool in the car when you see the glass kind of falling and like bouncing off him. I don't know, like I really like slow-mo. I don't know, it's a cool thing. I don't watch it enough as like I should. I mean, I have opportunities. I just don't participate in it as much as I should. I know it's stupid in getting off subject here, but it's just like slow-mo's cool. That's all you need to ascertain from that, what I'm trying to say. And the fact is, like still trying to understand his powers a little bit. It also makes you wonder, does he have some kind of premonition type ability? Because the whole situation when he goes to Willa's place at the end of the episode, he ends up seeing the watch from his dream. So it's, not unless it's a situation where it's like Arthur's trying to tell him something in his dreams, or Willow was trying to tell him something in his dream, or whether it was just kind of like, I don't know, like that's why I kept getting the feeling like maybe that moment we saw is actually something from the future that just hasn't happened yet, and then it kind of is trailing back and be like, oh yeah, that, I don't know, it started off as a dream, but maybe it is a premonition for the future. I do wonder, because I brought up the whole Kevin situation, whether he was going to be by Holden's side and everything. It makes you wonder, will Holden's brother Luke be by his side during this whole situation? I mean, it seems like Holden's probably going to keep this a secret from everybody. There's also the fact is that officer, what's his name, Dayton got involved because, I mean, the whole bar situation, the gunshots and everything. Makes you wonder, will he be kind of a constant in this? Is it just a one-off thing, or will he be here in the future too, like to kind of help with this whole circumstance? I'm just curious to see where it all goes, because like I definitely felt, because I brought it up in a video that I put up, well, today at the time I'm recording this, but yesterday by the time you see this, essentially I was talking about this a little bit. I was like, I kind of got a Kyle XY vibe from it, which it kind of like reminded me of a little bit, especially watching the episode, kind of like something weird happening at a party, being in the woods and stuff, because Holden would constantly wake up and walk into the, like he'd find himself like waking up in the woods, like he sleepwalked there, and not just anywhere in the woods, specifically in a place where he went into his coma 12 years ago. He even found the little walkie-talkie he had back then that him and Kev would talk on. So, like I said, like tone-wise, it does remind me of Kyle XY, like me repeating myself again from what I said in the video. Which, like I said it then, I'll say it again, it makes sense why. I mean, I'm not sure if there's anyone connected to the show that's, I did interestingly find out, like, I think he's an executive producer, Tim Kring. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think it's Kring. He's the dude that's behind, he did some other stuff I ended up finding out about, Crossing Jordan and something else, but specifically he's best probably well known for being the creator of Heroes in Touch, I think, are two shows I definitely know him for. Heroes being the most notable one of the two, I think. But, not trying to, like, put down Touch or whatever. You get what I'm trying to say, sorry. But overall, a very good premiere. Very interested to see where the rest of this goes. Once again, something else I kind of brought up in that video I put up is the fact is they kind of repeated it in this episode on, I think it's on Hulu, on the Freeform app, as well as on demand, because I even checked it myself, so they are there. Like, you can binge on the rest of the season. So I'm thinking I might do that. I don't know. I mean, I figure I might as well do it since they're presenting me the opportunity. Because for one, I hate waiting week to week, and it's like, oh, you give me the chance to go ahead and watch everything all at once. So at some point during the week, I'll put it up, or maybe I'll wait to the weekend. I don't know. I just think that's very interesting. I don't know any other shows that's done that. Like, I brought up the example of the Shannara Chronicles, but even then, it was never the full season like that. So that was just kind of interesting to me. I guess they just felt like testing the waters doing that. Nevertheless, I really appreciate it. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.